You found your way to Whispers of Crimes, a quiet corner where the shadows of the past are gently told. Here, we speak of real crimes and mysteries, not to shock or scare, but to wonder, to reflect, and maybe to help you fall asleep. So close your eyes, let your thoughts slow down, and come with me into tonight's case. He wasn't a drifter, he wasn't a cult leader, and he wasn't caught because of some dramatic mistake. Israel Keyes lived among us, a contractor, a father, a war veteran, the kind of man you might pass in the grocery store ... and never think twice. But behind the smile, behind the soft voice and the steady hands was a predator. One who hunted without pattern, without mercy, and without a trace. He buried kill kits across the country, chose his victims at random, and for years. No one even knew he existed until one night in Alaska ... when a coffee stand closed early and a girl vanished without a sound. What unraveled next was a nightmare, a trail of bodies, a mind without remorse, and a secret he took to the grave. This is the story of Israel Keyes and the murders we were never meant to find. Chapter 1. The man no one knew. Israel Keyes didn't look like a killer. He looked like a quiet, working-class man with a heart and a clipboard. Someone who fixed things, paid bills, picked up his daughter from school. A man who shopped at Home Depot and drank coffee at drive-thrus. To most people, he was barely noticeable, and that was exactly how he wanted it. Born in rural Utah in 1978, Keyes was the second of 10 children. His parents raised him off the grid, first in Utah, then in Washington State, in a remote cabin with no electricity or running water. They belonged to a strict fundamentalist Christian sect and lived in near total isolation. But it wasn't just religious extremism that shaped him. It was loneliness, silence, a lack of empathy, compounded by an environment where cruelty could go unnoticed. By his teen years, Keyes began torturing animals. He once tied a cat to a tree and shot it in front of a group of friends. When they were horrified, he laughed. That was the first real glimpse into his darkness, a moment where violence thrilled him and fear excited him. He would later tell investigators that he knew he was different from a young age. That he didn't feel guilt, not in the way others did. He liked the silence, the power, the lack of remorse. After a brief stint in the military, he settled in Alaska, running a contracting business and raising a daughter. On the surface, Keyes was stable. But behind closed doors, something terrifying was growing. The boy who once killed cats had evolved. Now he had a plan. Chapter 2. The rules of the predator. Unlike most serial killers, Israel Keyes didn't have a clear type. He didn't stalk one neighborhood. He didn't chase the same age group, gender, or race. His kills were completely random, and that made him nearly impossible to trace. But if his victims had nothing in common, his method always did. Keyes operated by a rigid set of self-imposed rules. He avoided killing close to home. He paid in cash, used burner phones, and turned off GPS. He traveled long distances just to bury kill kits, buckets filled with duct tape, guns, knives, ropes, chemicals, and plastic bags. Then he returned years later to use them. That's how disciplined he was. That's how long he planned ahead. These kits were found in places like Vermont, New York, and Washington. In some cases, the kit had sat undisturbed for more than 2 years before he returned to use it. He buried them near campgrounds, boat ramps, or isolated trails, always areas with low foot traffic, easy escape routes, and poor surveillance. It was like he de-read every law enforcement handbook and crafted a strategy to avoid every possible mistake. He refused to leave behind DNA, hair, fingerprints. He chose victims in places he was unfamiliar with, used rental cars, and paid in cash. If he felt the area had cameras or that something felt off, he walked away. His goal was never to be caught. His goal was perfection, complete control over life, death, and discovery. Chapter 3. The Known Victims. It wasn't until 2012 that the world learned Israel Keyes's name, and even then, it was only because he broke his rules. The victim was Samantha Carnegie, an 18-year-old barista working alone at a small coffee kiosk in Anchorage, Alaska. Security footage showed a masked man ordering coffee, then pulling a gun. Samantha complied, thinking it was a robbery. She was led away at gunpoint and never seen alive again. That night, Keyes took her to a shed behind his house. His own girlfriend and daughter were home, sleeping just feet away. There, he assaulted her, killed her, and hid her body in a freezer. Then, get this, he boarded a flight the next morning for a 2-week Caribbean cruise with his family. When he returned, he took a Polaroid of Samantha's body, staged to look alive, and used it to demand ransom. He even sewed her eyelids open, but the withdrawals from her debit card eventually led police to Keyes, who was caught in Texas. Once in custody, investigators realized they weren't dealing with the typical murderer. They were dealing with something worse. Something cold, strategic, patient. During questioning, Keyes confessed to the murders of Bill and Lorraine Carrier in Vermont, a couple he abducted from their home in 2011 and killed without any clear motive. No personal connection, no reason. He'd simply found their house after randomly driving around Burlington. He broke in, waited, and when they returned, he struck. There are at least 11 confirmed victims, but the FBI suspects there are more, dozens more. Chapter 4. The Kill Kits Across America. To understand the full horror of Keyes, you have to understand the way he prepared. He wasn't just a killer, he was a long-game hunter. He buried tools of death in remote places like Wyoming, Arizona, and upstate New York. He'd return years later, retrieve the kit, find a victim at random, commit the murder, then vanish. This strategy allowed him to maintain a double life. He could appear at his daughter's parent-teacher conference one week, then fly across the country to abduct and kill someone the next. Investigators recovered only a few of these kits. One was found buried in Eagle River, Alaska. Inside were zip ties, bullets, cash, and Drano used to dissolve tissue. Another was uncovered near the courier's home in Vermont. Each kit was a small crime scene, perfectly preserved. It was like opening a time capsule made by a serial killer. These caches were never found by accident. That means some might still be out there, waiting in the ground, untouched, like silent bombs that never went off. And if they are, what else might be buried with them? Chapter 5. Inside the interrogation room, once Keyes was caught, the FBI believed they had a rare opportunity. A cooperative serial killer willing to confess. But what they got was a game. He didn't talk because he wanted to. He talked because he enjoyed it on his terms. Over nearly 40 hours of interviews, Keyes revealed select details about his crimes. He smiled. He joked. He asked for an Americano in Snickers bar, and he never once showed remorse. He admitted he studied other serial killers like Ted Bundy, but said he found them sloppy, arrogant. He wanted to be better, smarter. He even bragged that law enforcement would never have caught him had he not broken his own rule by killing in Alaska, his home turf. Still, he refused to give names. There are things they'll never know, he said. And that's how I want it. He played with them like a cat toys with a dying mouse. And behind it all was one terrifying question. How many more? Chapter 6. Death Before Disclosure on December 2nd, 2012. While awaiting trial, Israel Keyes killed himself in his jail cell. He slit his wrists and strangled himself using bedsheets, dying in the early morning hours before guards could intervene. He left behind a suicide note. But it wasn't a confession, it was poetry, riddled with disturbing metaphors about death, blood, and his so-called demons. It gave no names, no details, only chaos. Alongside the note were 12 crude skulls drawn in his own blood, one for each known or suspected victim. It was his final taunt, a way of saying, I win. Because by dying, Keyes guaranteed that whatever secrets he still held, whatever names he hadn't said, died with him. To this day, authorities still get tips about Keyes, still comb through cold cases hoping to find a match. But the truth is, he may have done exactly what he set out to do, kill without leaving a trace. Chapter 7. The haunting legacy Israel Keyes didn't want fame. He hated serial killers who craved attention. He once said he was disgusted by those who put on a show for the media. That's why his story is so terrifying. He didn't kill to be remembered. He killed to be forgotten. His face isn't iconic like Bundy. His crimes aren't flashy like Gacy, but that's what makes him even more dangerous. He was the serial killer for the 21st century, one who adapted, evolved, and stayed ahead. He used modern tools, moved through modern systems, and understood how to break them. And worst of all, he knew how to wait. He could bury a murder kit in 2007 and return in 2010 to use it. He could sit at a family dinner after killing someone the day before. Today, the FBI still considers him a major case. They released maps, timelines, and travel logs, hoping to identify other victims. But most of the leads have gone cold. And the question that continues to haunt investigators is the one we may never answer. How many more are out there? And if someone like Israel Keyes could live next door for years without being noticed, who else might be doing the same? That's all for tonight's story. Another thread in the web of true crime, quietly unraveling as the night goes on. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. And if sleep has already taken you, may your dreams be peaceful and your mind at ease. I'll be here next time by the fire with another story waiting to be told. Good night, and don't forget to lock your doors.